Okay, welcome everyone to the Planning Board, the March 4th Planning Board meeting. On the agenda, we are going to review minutes from February 18th. We have a property located at Interlake and Cross Road that is currently in Chapter 61, and we are discussing that, and the board will talk about whether they want to make a recommendation to the select board on whether the town should exercise its right of first refusal. And then we will review the existing master plan and discuss the update. And I'm really sorry that Carl is not here, nor is Wayne, but they're not. So, so without further ado, has everyone had a chance to review the minutes?
Yes.
I move that we accept them.
I second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay. And next up is the parcel at Interlake and Road, and I'm going to recuse myself.
Eric was there.
Hey, good. Hi, Eric. Welcome. Gary's going to,
Yeah, what do I have to do then?
just, it's the agenda item is to discuss.
Okay. So our next agenda item is to discuss and make a recommendation to the town on their option to exercise its first right of refusal for a Chapter 61 parcel located at Interlake and Cross Road, parcel 1347, page 368. So I would open up discussion from the board on that. I guess I could just say a little bit about it in that they want to sell a parcel that's under Chapter 61, which means that not only does it have to, the back taxes have to be rolled back the taxes are rolled back for 5 years, and they have to pay the taxes on that in order to proceed. Mm-hmm. And, but with that comes the fact that since it is a chapter land, the town gets first refusal on whether they want to buy it. And then it becomes a negotiating issue between the seller and the town. Mm-hmm. As to how to proceed. I haven't heard anything one way or the other as to whether the town has an interest in it or not. Since we as a board don't have any money, it would be up to the select board. Mm-hmm. to decide if they in fact wanted to enter into a negotiation with the landowner. And they have, I think they have 90 days to do that. I'm not absolutely positive on that, but I think it's 90 days to do that. So if any of us had a recommendation, I open the floor to us.
Because I'm new to this kind of thing. I'm not sure what our position is, what kind of position we take as a planning board in terms of this. I mean, yeah. Are we looking at it as the town would want to buy it so they could make it open space, or, what?
That's just it. I mean, there's been really no discussion on it whatsoever, except, because I'm one of the assessors, we've already dealt with it to a degree. So, if we had and we don't even have to make a recommendation, I don't think, but I mean, if our recommendation could be something like, we would leave that up to the select board to make the decision, unless we had some kind of strong feeling about it, I think it's 2.5 acres.
Oh, it's much bigger.
Oh, is it?
It's 30 something acres.
Oh, okay.
Right.
Is it how many? 35?
Right. And it's in an old, Interlake neighborhood.
I think I got it confused with something else that's rattling around upstairs.
I just have a quick question. Does it have sewer and water?
There's access to sewer there.
I don't know.
I think the sewer actually does go up this way and then up.
Is there sewer and water?
I think it doesn't go up my street, but it goes up the other way.
Yeah.
I know.
Can you maybe explain to people what kind of chapter land it's in and what that means?
I think it's recreation.
I thought it was just because of the trees.
Well, yeah, I mean, it's a protected parcel that gets, dispensation from full taxation. So, but I think mostly now they're looking to put most of that under recreation. It just seems to be the way they're going with that. I mean, it really doesn't make too much difference which one it's under. It still falls under the chapter. So I know.
Who owns it now? Who owns it now?
Last name is Moffett.
Moffett, Earl Moffett.
Okay, that's basically all wetland.
There's,
No.
Not that one.
No.
There's one next door. Craig owns one. That's a lot of wetland, but the one that this one is not Earl. It's a couple who I believe lives.
The family
across-
trust.
Right.
yeah,
And it looks like it has a lot of.
but he's the one that's brought it forward. That's
Yeah,
why.
if I look at Mass Gis, the land and I realize that's not always up to date. But
Right.
the Craig Moffett land in its depiction is all, it's basically all swamp. And then
That's not. Yeah, that's not it.
that's not it. Okay, there's
Yep.
another one. Okay.
It's right next door to it.
Okay, and then I don't know about chapter 61, but my limited understanding of a right of first refusal is not necessarily a 90-day thing, but if somebody makes an offer on the land, then the town has a certain amount of time to match that offer.
It's
Right.
under contract.
Yeah,
There's-
the offer's been made.
It's.
Oh,
def-
okay, thank you.
Mhm.
So does that mean the town would have to match that amount that those people have offered to pay for
At least, I would say, yeah.
it?
That's my understanding and once again, anything, I'm sure Liz, as you know, anything in real estate is possible.
It depends. It depends what.
It shouldn't be a bidding war, though.
No, well,
I've been on the other end of one of these things, and it's basically, right of first refusal is if you can match the offer that's on the table, it's yours.
mhm.
Oh,
Well, it was listed. I think it was listed for $695. I mean, it's not cheap.
Yeah.
I was kind of surprised at how high, quite high it was.
Do we know what the offer is?
You can't find that out. You can't find anything out about price until the deal closes. That's it.
No, it's a purchase agreement. It's been
Right.
signed.
Yeah, you
You
can't say-
can't pronounce
no.
it. Oh, you can't say it out loud.
No, we don't even know. The
Okay, we won't
realtor
talk about
cannot
it.
tell you.
We won't talk about that then.
You'd be crossing ethical boundaries.
Yeah, but it's real estate.
Right.
Yes. Can I?
Patrick,
Yes.
what is the board taking that up in the near future? Or you don't?
I think it's on the agenda for Thursday, yeah.
Okay.
I know that, a couple of things. One, I do believe it's a buildable lot because it's being sold, as I understand it, for a single family home, but there's no certainty there. I do know that we just got an inquiry related to, and I'm not saying it's related to this. We did just get an inquiry that was interesting related to the residential inclusionary bylaw with somebody that wants to subdivide somewhere between 10 and 19 lots for a current piece of land. I have no idea if that's what this is or something else, but I'm just saying that there's just another data point that is not subject to non-disclosure, so I figured I'd let you guys know. And I think that the tricky thing for towns with this stuff obviously is the short duration we have to come up with the money. So, it's certainly possible timing wise to bring a proposal to use perhaps some of our free cash to put toward this, that would make a lot more sense to me personally if it was at least somewhat matched by, some private donor or nonprofit, money in terms of those who are interested in the conservation space. So, I think in the absence of somebody kind of taking a leadership role to put together, where the money comes from, my guess is that the board would likely take a pass. $600,000 out of our free cash that's money that we've kind of, targeted for use with the new fire station so that we don't see a tax increase for the new fire station. Because we have some debt falling off in 2033. So, I'm open. That's, don't have an opinion yet.
Thanks, Pat.
Has the Stockbridge Land Trust been notified of this? Or I'm sure they know about it.
Well, if they have, it's too late. I mean, it's under contract. Unless the land trust can give money to this town, yes.
Yeah, that would be the idea.
Okay.
I have not heard, as a land trust person, I have not heard.
Yeah, maybe it's something to bring up quickly. Yeah, because I'd be surprised if one person bought it to build a single family home at that price.
Patrick, do you remember how long you guys have to,
I think you're right. I think it's 90 days, but I'm not certain. We went
Yeah.
through this with the Fenn Farm acquisition,
Yeah.
and I mean, look, if it's a few $100,000 on the town's part, I could see doing it. I think that
Yeah.
the question is whether, the Land Trust or Laurel Hill or any of the players that are in the business of acquiring land for preservation want to get involved. If they don't, I totally understand. That's not putting it off. I just think it might be a little too rich just for the town.
all right, thanks. So anything else?
Just on the back end, I sure wish they had written into it, that this would be a single family's plot as opposed to leaving it open, but because we could have done that as a seller, but
Yeah,
oh, well.
No. So do we want to vote on?
I think that we could do whatever you'd like to do. I think, if we don't have a firm or a strong opinion, then we would just refer back to the select board to do what they think is best.
Yeah, I would like to encourage the select board to try and make it happen, quite
Yes,
frankly.
yes.
Okay. Carl, we're talking about the Interlake and Crossroad property
What else is there to talk?
today. So we've been asked to give a recommendation to the select board as to interest in purchasing it because the town has first refusal.
Oh. The whole thing?
Yes.
Wow.
The one on Interlake and Crossroad.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Do you have a,
Comment or thought about that?
Yeah.
I honestly had not thought about that.
Hmm.
That's all news to me. Thank you for asking.
No, here we go. I got it.
Is there an asking price?
they have well, it was listed, what did you say?
I think it was around 695.
Yeah,
Okay.
but we don't know what the offer was because that's privileged information.
It's closed.
So Nancy, you think that we ought to ask the select board to recommend?
I do.
Okay. And Liz?
Absolutely.
Okay. Carl?
I think that it would definitely be in the interest of the town to pursue it, I think.
Okay. I really don't have a strong opinion on it, but I will go along with you folks and we'll recommend to the select board to take a good look at it, and we would like to as a planning board, recommend, looking into it. And, then they can, oh, I'm sorry, and,
I would certainly agree with the concept of
yeah, that's where I'm at.
yeah. So I think we're all on the same page here.
Okay,
Okay, good.
so, Eric, me, Kate, has recused herself. So, four of us, which is the majority, here tonight, five? Oh, no, Kate recused herself.
No,
I was
but
confused, I was confused about the time again.
Yeah.
Okay.
1, 2, 3. Oh, yeah, five. I'm sorry. My math is off now. And we'll ask the select board to take a close look at it.
yeah,
Yes.
and see if you can pull in the
Yeah.
other groups. That would be great.
Okay, very good. So, 5, 1 recusal. Thank you.
Okay.
Yep,
Back.
Come on back.
Barry.
you're welcome.
Gary, does somebody on the planning board maybe want to be the point person? I'm happy to work with someone, but it's kind of a crazy time for me personally to reach out to the various stakeholders to try to put together the money. It'd be great if we had maybe, a point person on the planning board who wanted to kind of help, execute this responsibility.
Well, why don't we, I mean, if you guys have no interest in it after Thursday, then the point is moot, I think. So maybe we'll revisit that, after your meeting.
Okay.
And you're talking about land trust,
Well, yeah, the, land trust, I guess, Laurel Hill,
Yeah.
private.
how much land are we talking about?
About 25 acres, something like
That was
that.
like 35 acres.
Oh,
I
sorry,
think-
35.
35.
Huh?
And
Do you want to buy it, Carl?
So if you're up for it,
No.
because a private person could throw in half or something, you know what I mean?
Yeah, or an investor.
All right, thank you. So Kate,
All right, thank you, Gary.
you're welcome.
Okay, so that brings us to reviewing the existing master plan
Yeah.
and having a discussion about next steps. So,
So could I just say one thing?
absolutely.
Wayne really was the pursuant on this, and he's not here.
Right.
So I would hate to cut him out of this. But if we wanted to,
And do you know where?
I mean, I'd be glad to talk about it.
Yeah,
But I would not like to do it without Wayne here.
okay, I'm fine with that. How do you,
I don't know how anybody else feels
Yep.
about
Should
it.
all be
Okay, I
here.
do think it's a whole group.
Yeah, we need all be.
I mean, I think we should, let's start, we're here, so let's start talking about it.
Sure.
And we can continue the discussion at the
Yeah,
next meeting.
that sounds good.
Okay. Did everybody get a copy?
Oh, yeah.
Okay, good. You got it, Carl?
Mine is as old as the master plan is itself.
Okay.
Yeah, I have one that's like that.
Yeah. Okay, so what are your thoughts? Eric's here. We can just sort of have a relaxed and,
First of all, we definitely have to do a project. Every number in this document needs to be updated. And so, that is just, whatever, demographics and dollar figures and so forth. It's interesting to see that some of the things that were expressed as concerns in the 1996 master plan, such as what to do with the playing school,
mhm.
have been dealt with.
Right, and
Yeah.
sewer.
Yeah, sewer is a big point. There was a lot of concern expressed about historic preservation, which frankly, has been addressed and is working well. And so I think that there may be some tweaks to the overall kind of vision for statement for the town, just to, I guess my feeling would be to place maybe more of an emphasis on the on kind of the community and keeping Stockbridge viable as a community, which is expressed here, but it could be maybe more prioritized or something. Obviously, we've had a lot more discussion about affordable housing, although again, progress has been made even since that 30 years ago. So
Yeah.
My impression was in looking through it, I haven't combed through it in great detail, but it was like 98, 99% of the document is basically facts and figures about what was the situation back in 1995 or 96 or whatever it was, which have no relation to what they are now. This is my first brush with a master plan, but I thought it would have been more visionary. There would have been more recommendation of what to do in the future that I could look at and say, well, that didn't work, or whatever. But that was scant. I didn't see much of that at all. So I do think that if the town wants to undertake a new master plan or updating that one, there's a good deal of work to be done just updating all those numbers.
I started looking up, I have numbers here that are new. I'm going crazy. I've done my homework this time. But one thing I did look at was I looked at Lee's new master plan, which is really nice. It's got history, it's got background, it's got vision, they had committees of people in different areas that worked together. They did, they brought, just like we did with the visioning plan, we brought a lot of people in to talk. And it really came out beautifully, and it really shows their commitment to the town. I think this was a good start, but it's also 30 years old and it doesn't know how it's done now. And there are people out there that do it. I think for us to try and rewrite it ourselves would be kind of against what we're trying to do. Right now, I think when this was written, that grants weren't a big thing in terms of trying to get grant money. This is what we need for grant money to do our town's roads and to go ahead and do it.
And on that basis, it doesn't really need to be particularly more elaborate than what this is. But it does need to be current.
If you want it to get the attention of people that you're sending it to. Because if I had this and I had Lee's, I'd go, ooh, Lee looks good. And it's hard to put it down.
Yeah.
And this is like, okay, how many more numbers am I going to
Yeah, it's like a snapshot in time.
It is. Yeah. And the snapshot in time is lovely, but things have done a little bit differently now. And even though we're not going to try and change the characteristic of the town, maybe that the document has.
And I completely agree with the idea that we need to bring in help from outside. But I think that there are places in which, without giving us too much homework assignments,
Oh, I don't think we'd have
members of the board can give notes, make written contributions or whatever, to be considered as part of.
Well, that would be done.
Formulating.
That would be done with the town. That would be done with townspeople and town committees. And
Yes.
so we don't have to do all that.
Oh, sure.
I don't know if you called anybody.
So, why don't we keep talking? And then, I think that, so these are based on templates. And, they're pulling in information from different places, from the survey, from the census and so on. And that sort of basic stuff. So what I think of us is doing right now is, in addition to having this conversation and then, waiting for Wayne, is just being in the information gathering phase and, looking at, take a look at the options for who might do this and not rule anything out. And, I mean, I think I'd be interested in calling the folks who did this because I think they did a really, I realize that not everything was done, but that's not necessarily they're just sort of putting the information out there. And it's up to the town to do what they want to do or not want to do. So, I think we should just keep our options open and see what's out there. I'd like to read this one section, which I liked on page 67. It's under regional context. And it says, I like the way it captured Stockbridge, the context of Stockbridge within the Berkshires. And it says, if I may, Stockbridge is nationally known as an outstanding cultural community. It is the cultural magnet of the Southern Berkshires and is inextricably linked to area communities' various services. While area communities lean on Stockbridge for the tourist dollars, Stockbridge leans on nearby towns for emergency medical services, basic commercial and retail needs, and personal services. Stockbridge could not survive on its own. And then it gives examples of shared services, like the Berkshire Hills Regional School District and so on. Fairview, Berkshire Medical Center, Lee Visiting Nurse. Some of them are no longer.
Right.
Like the Berkshire Mental Health Center that's now the Breen Center.
Right.
So these resources, it goes on, these resources are important to note because there is a local and likely national trend to combine service needs. It is more economical to do so, and many communities have shifting populations with quickly changing needs. The regional or centralized approach allows a community to relinquish some of its services in exchange for, in most cases, a wider range of services offered by providers who extend services to a greater number of people. This concept has led to communities relying on each other a great deal. So I just like that description of how we fit, in some ways, how our role fits within the greater Berkshire area.
And that's happening. It's ongoing.
You mean shared services?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, EMS.
Yeah.
Right. And, some of them make sense. I actually, in terms of the idea several years ago that came up of a shared town manager, I wasn't in favor of that. And, so sometimes it works and, depending on what you want, you might feel like it doesn't work. In that instance, I was glad that Stockbridge did not go with that model.
Yeah, there's too much to do for somebody to share that role.
I just felt that there were inevitably
Yeah.
going to be tensions, but,
Right.
And then it just, it didn't, even between two towns, I guess didn't work out. So, yeah.
But we wouldn't have to look at every little section of this as a planning board, correct?
No.
There's only like certain sections that would pertain to the planning board itself.
They're going to whoever does it is going to interview us.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's
I
it.
mean, they're
Oh, so we don't have to rewrite our sections.
No, I mean, I think there are a lot of descriptions in here from Pat Flynn. I do, just the way they read. I'm like, surprised that she wrote quite a few of them.
Style.
it was done by a planning board member. She oversaw it by the name of Marty
Oh,
Bowinkle.
I remember.
Oh, this is Marty's project. I remember that.
Yes, yeah.
Right.
And
she was the
Marie's
chair when I
daughter,
started.
Kim, she helped out, right? She was the secretary at that
She was our
time?
secretary.
Yeah. Yeah. So, okay, so I will, does anything have anything more?
I would just echo, I think what everybody said, which is that, I think I guess if you could say the outline of this is still solid. It's just fixing or updating, not fixing, updating the figures that are obviously out of date and, just opening up this to maybe, a little different format like Liz was mentioning. But, the basic I think nuts and bolts of it are still pretty decent. So I don't think we have to reinvent the wheel to
No, I don't think.
get this thing updated.
No, I don't,
Okay.
I agree. And I actually did call Berkshire Regional Planning Commission because I was really curious on what this, what it would cost, because it sounds like it's huge and it could be. And they said that, based on the Lee one, that it would cost $70,000. Don't freak out yet. There's a grant that covers 50,000 and they cover 10. So it would cost 10. And there's money, I called Mike Canales, and there's money in the planning board budget. We've got lots left over from when we used Kara.
We haven't used it all up on the picnics?
No. No, we have just a
Oh, I
few more.
missed
We have some
that.
left for ice cream.
I wasn't invited to that.
So anyway, it could get covered easily.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, and I just thought that would be good to know.
Well, I know that when we looked at it originally, the $200,000 number was floated out there.
I know.
And that was back, 5 years ago or so.
Right, and I think now they've got it more down, it's streamlined, and we've got computers, and the RPC also does a lot of them in this county, so that they know what they're looking at.
But I agree with you, Gary. The sort of the nuts and bolts framework here, and a lot of things that were stated in the past, remain true.
Right, and then some need to be updated.
Once
And then
you get the numbers and updates, and
if you're going to do it, if you're going to keep the same charts, or if you're going to change the formatting, it's just a case of unplugging and replugging numbers,
But that said, it is still an opportunity to sit back, take the time to think about, what further angles of kind of vision for the future and actual planning could be articulated.
And that would come out of group meetings.
Yeah,
where you
and
ask-
the fact of the matter is, this has worked, in the sense
Other
that some of the
departments.
things that were
Sounds good.
stated
Yes.
as issues have been, addressed.
And some haven't,
No,
and I was kind of
Well,
touched by
but,
some of them.
to that point, some you wouldn't have wanted to be addressed, like the whole idea of a road going around the downtown.
well, it doesn't go around the it goes into the transportation. Well,
That was a topic back then, the idea of a bypass.
Right.
Oh, boy.
Yeah, that was a big, remember, Marie? It was a big topic.
well, I don't mean to digress, but I came across, when I was clearing out my grandparents' estate, I came across this marvelous document from 1967 called Lennox 2000. And it lays out a whole plan for what Lennox would look like in, 30 years' time. And frankly, the build outs have taken place in all but a few places where a lot of conservation work happened without any actual support from the town, sort of in spite of it. And then the entire conversion of, Route 7 from a scenic
The bypass.
country road to,
Yeah,
well, the bypass had happened already, I think, but the,
I thought the bypass had happened in I thought it was after
I
1966.
don't know.
Does anyone remember?
I was too young, but but the making of the sort of the Lennox strip with all the Mazda dealerships.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, that was totally articulated.
That was predicted.
That was kind of a part of a plan. It's like,
Yeah,
let's take,
gosh, that strip is really something with that newest leadership.
a pretty New England drive and turn it
Trees are
into,
gone.
another.
They wanted to make that
strip.
newest dealership there was a proposal, I think it was one of the knee James, to make it into a marijuana. And, and people were really concerned about that, make it into a marijuana shop. And now look at it.
Maybe they would have kept the trees.
I wonder about it every time I drive by there. Maybe we would have been better off with a marijuana shop there.
Well, we wouldn't have cared as much.
It would have probably been the same.
Right, no, I mean,
Structure.
everybody was high, we wouldn't have cared as much.
The things that are in here, but I mean, but like the integrity of of downtown and its commercial viability and, you know, I mean, I think what's not really articulated here at all is, you know, sort of any kind of notions of economic development in terms of, you know, and we've lost businesses that weren't necessarily located in Stockbridge, but that like Walmart and like Country, you know, for instance, Limelight just went out of business.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, this, you know, I mean, what does that future look like? And, you know, are we involved? Do we have an idea about it? I don't know.
And how do we bring that community and that economic base back?
Well, yeah,
And those are great questions to talk about in a group.
yeah.
I think it's an opportunity to at least have the discussion.
Yes,
You know?
I'm sure. And we have new people in town.
Lots of new people.
Definitely new people, yeah. We're
Right.
gonna need to capture the part-time community as well.
Well, that's
They weren't captured in this, they weren't.
No, they-
barely mentioned.
Right.
But I mean, those realities have changed also. I mean, it's, you know, I mean, since 1996 or whatever, it's like, you
Yeah.
know,
Yeah.
I would say the second homeowner community has become preponderant. So,
All right, so I will, Eric, did you want to weigh in anymore?
I do think I think we have to do something. We have to put out a new document one way or another. I don't think there's a whole lot of question about that. And you know, I realize that a lot of this could be updated certainly, but I think in the format of a new one, that all those numbers and everything should be part of an appendix. And so that this thing should read more like a
A narrative.
instead of the Encyclopedia Britannica or something, you know?
Yeah.
That's just my first blush glance at what I saw.
Take a look at the diagnostic, which is posted on the planning board site, and that reads like a narrative, but it doesn't have, it doesn't have the data. So sounds like, I like that idea that you sort of combine the narrative and make it something more.
Yeah, you run into these tables and you know, and I didn't see many graphs, but you know, columns of numbers and all that all belongs in an appendix that's referred to.
Yeah, I would say take a look, we need to take a look at other people's newer plans, and they don't call them master plans anymore, by the way, it's comprehensive plan. The name has been changed. So,
No, we're not politically correct.
I'd be very interested in looking at the lead plan.
yeah, but the lead plan's very pretty. They just did the Lanesboro plan. I don't know if it's up on their site, but I would check each town and see how close, you know, what they've
they have
done.
color illustrations.
One thing that I did notice in the existing plan, the plan from 95 or 96, whatever it is they put a lot of emphasis on development around the Stockbridge Bowl. And of course, well, I shouldn't say of course, in many people's eyes, that's really been a failure as far as zoning is concerned and the permits that were allowed, let's put it that way. But that plan did touch on that quite a bit. And its importance to the town.
Well, and it's, and a lot of it's happened, you know, I mean, that's, a lot has happened.
Okay. Patrick, did you have anything you wanted to add?
Sure. Well, a couple of things. I think a couple of months ago, I had suggested that you know, rather than necessarily deciding up front and then applying for a grant, we apply for the grant and understand what the balance would require, just in case then you'd have a town meeting warrant if you need an extra 10 grand to proceed if you decide to proceed. I also could see asking town meeting to actually discuss whether the town is interested in going through a planning process on this. Because I think, I think we had a lot of open issues, and I would really like to know whether people want to see a broad discussion of those issues. I mean, we have the question of seasonal communities. There's a lot of opinions on that. Question of whether we should allow for residential, local home ownership on undersized lots. Question of whether we should build affordable housing. If so, where? If so, should it be focused on municipal employees or seniors, or whatever? Question of pedestrian access. That was something that I've been working on that I know that there's not broad consensus on yet, whether that's even a good idea. And and I feel like kind of sometimes we deal with these things kind of on a staccato basis, and having a conversation that brought all of these issues to get out and had a conversation, it would certainly provide guidance so that, that those of us, you guys and the select board who are tasked with executing the will of the voters is a lot clearer if we have an updated set of guidelines. So that's all I got to say. Thanks.
The only thing I would say to that, Pat, is that I don't think you couldn't do it at a regular town meeting. There's already too much there.
Yeah, I agree.
I think you'd have to have a meeting just on that,
Well,
on
that's,
this.
that's part of the whole master plan, comprehensive, whatever you want to call
Yeah.
it. That's part of it, is that they're meeting with people, there's
sent a long message.
stakeholders, and, there's a survey, and they're sort of trying to reach as many people as possible with that survey. Last time, I think for this one, Jack Spencer told me that the survey did not go to part-time residents. It just went to full-time residents. So, so basically it's part of the whole planning process, master planning process, that you're capturing
Right.
as much of the town in all its complexity as possible. So, so I guess that's, but why don't we?
Can I just respond to Gary real quick? Gary, I wasn't suggesting we debate the actual merits of the individual ideas at town meeting. I was only suggesting that we ask the town whether it's interested in a planning process.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Okay, that's fine.
Yeah.
Okay, so,
But by that point, I would hope we would have a recommendation that we proceed with an update of this.
Well, we really have to.
Yeah.
sorry,
Bruce.
I think he'll speak up if he wants to.
Yeah.
Okay, so I'll put it down for the next agenda.
Okay.
And we'll continue the discussion. I'd also like to put down this report that was recently issued, Unlocking Housing Production Commission, from the Governor's Commission on, it's called Building for Tomorrow. So I think we should also talk about that. And yeah,
Did you send that out
I did.
Yes.
I did
like yesterday or something?
a couple days ago.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah. Yeah, I also sent out a link to
I looked at it.
town council's comments.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's too many pages on my phone.
I mean, that's,
Maybe we can get a copy.
it's really, the impacts, some of the impacts of some of the recommendations to Stockbridge would be significant. Okay. So we should, speaking of looking ahead and planning and understanding, we should be talking about this report. And you can ask Jennifer or Michael to print out copies if you'd like. Michael printed it out for me today.
And that's coming from where?
The governor appointed a commission to, someone read me the title there.
Building for tomorrow.
Yeah,
So in short, it's coming from Boston.
yeah, it's coming from Boston.
There's also a webinar, and I think Patrick and I certainly got the thing, but there's a webinar that's being held on Wednesday, March 12th. It's called The Housing Crisis in the Berkshires, a panel discussion featuring Mass Housing Secretary Edward Gustus. I'm going, it's on a webinar, it's easy. But I think it would be interesting to hear how they're approaching this.
Does it come from Boston?
Yeah.
it sounded to me like it's oriented towards the business community, is that right?
Affordable housing.
But it sounded to me like the audience or
The housing crisis in the Berkshires.
there was more below it, though, that sounded like it was more for the business community.
Discussion featuring Mass Housing Secretary Edward Augustus. And he's doing a lot on affordable housing, so.
Right. Well,
But anyway, if you're interested, it's there. And I would you can look it up.
I think it's being hosted by the Edge, the Berkshire Edge maybe, and it sounded like it was for the business community. So, but I don't know. It's open. It's open.
It's open.
Yep.
Just thought I'd mention it.
Yeah. So, okay, so anything else? And Liz, I will put you down for your update if
Thank you.
if you want to.
It's so ready.
Yeah, no, I just forgot.
I make a motion that we adjourn.
Second,
Okay.
all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you, everyone.